I think we will have Sparsh. Could you please give Nanika access, please?
Sure.
You can give us all access for that matter.
Done, I guess.
Awesome. One second, I'll just try. Yes, that works. Hold on, let me just put in present mode. Yeah. You guys can see, yeah, my screen?
Yes.
Then I need to edit the slide. Yeah.
Nanika, Ila, are you guys there?
Hello. Hi, I'm there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know. We all went out for a
Sheetal here.
I think so. Good evening to the participants that are already here. I think we'll just wait a few more minutes to have additional folks come in, and we'll start around 4:05. So thanks for your patience and stay tuned.
Luckily, it's a nice weekend also. It's not like pouring, raining, all of that in Mumbai.
That's good. Great. I think why don't we get started? And I think the link is open for people to join in. So we will have people trickling in probably over the next few minutes. So good evening, everyone. My name's Ila Dube, and I'm one of the founders of EduFund. And today we're very, very excited to be hosting a webinar on the importance of board and subject selection with experts from the Red Pen team. For those of you that are new to EduFund, a quick intro on us. We're an education planning app that helps parents prepare for their children's future education goals. And while our main focus is education savings, we do believe in a holistic approach towards education planning. And therefore, we have partnered with incredible people and players such as the Red Pen, who help students plan for their undergraduate and postgraduate admissions, counseling, and they help with the process around that. For many students, I think the path towards what degree they want to choose and where they're going to study and in what country they want to study largely depends on what board they have selected. And I know that seems like a very big decision to make for parents and students very early on. but I also think it's a decision that parents and students should make with enough information. They should have all the information presented to them, and that too, they should start their research early. So without further ado, I would like to present today's speakers, Nanika Ajani and Sheetal Vora. Nanika has been with the Red Pen for about 6 years, and she heads their pre-college advising services. And similarly, Sheetal is a certified college counselor, and she heads their undergraduate admission service as well. And together, the Red Pen has serviced over 5,000 students globally with a pretty diverse array of backgrounds. And these students have been placed in some competitive colleges, such as Stanford, Oxford, NYU, the George Washington University, and many, many more. The list can go on. So now I would like to turn it over to the Red Pen team to guide us on this topic and share with you their wisdom and their experience on what particular things that a parent and student should look out for and keep in mind while selecting what board is right for them. Just a quick reminder, we love and are super open to questions, so please put those in the chat box and we will answer them at the end of the session. So I will turn it over to Sheetal and Nanika. Over to you, ladies.
Thank you so much, Ila, for such a lovely introduction for both me and Sheetal. And welcome to the entire community here today. Sheetal and I today, the main topic that we're going to cover, as Ila mentioned, is a curriculum and subject selection, which is so important throughout high school from grade 8 up until grade 12. Those are kind of, the age group and the spectrum that we're going to kind of talk about. Sorry. I'm going to quickly introduce myself and let Sheetal go right after. So my name is Nanika Ajani and I run the pre-college advising services. Have been at the firm now for 6 years, prior to which I did my business management degree from London. I studied at Cass Business School. And before that, Bombay bred, did the ICSE curricula at the school called JB Pettit, right after which I did the IB and then kind of head off to college. Been at the Red Pen now, like I said, for 6 years and work with students from grade 8 up until 12 on their profile development as well as their applications. I'm going to let Sheetal go. Go, Sheetal.
Thank you, Ila, for that wonderful and warm introduction. Thank you, Nanika. Very good evening to everybody attending. Thank you so much for being here. Quick introduction to myself. I'm Sheetal Vora. I manage and head the undergrad services at the Red Pen. Been with the company, been in the education space for a while. My background is in economics and entrepreneurship, and then a college certified counselor, independent counselor, cruising into the 7th year with the company, evaluated thousands of applications and applicants and counsel students across a breadth. And thank you, Ila, for even, EduFund is an app or the financial planning app that is something that I personally feel very passionate also about. A parent going through this journey myself. My son is a rising senior, and with the dollar hitting the roof. So whether you're from a business background or a professional, I myself feel that this planning is required way early in time. And with every educational sort of opportunity and resource which is getting more and more expensive, this is I think of the hour. So yes, thank you so much for hosting us. And here we are. I'll hand it over to Nanika, who will take it forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Awesome. I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of an introduction about the Red Pen. So we're a boutique education consulting firm based out of Mumbai. However, we are a global firm. We have consultants all over the world as well as interact with students from all over the world. So far, we've had 92% of our applicants that have received offers from their top 3 choices. So work with students. Sorry, is my screen breaking? Sorry. Work with students to kind of identify choices that are, dreams for them as well as achievable dreams. So spend a lot of time with our students across all our service lines to kind of help them identify colleges that are kind of, achievable for them. Over the years, we've received $20 million+ in scholarships in the past 5 years that have been awarded to our students. And we work with students. We provide end-to-end support from preschool right up until PhD. That's the way we like to say it. We have various service lines at the Red Pen. We have the pre-college advising service line where we work with younger students and focus a lot more on board and subject selection one of the topics that we're covering today, profile development, as well as kind of, help students identify their, potential majors and career pathways that they might want to pursue. Work with students on boarding and day school admissions as well. So that's within India as well as internationally. Undergraduate services, of course, MBA, as well as postgraduate services. And lastly, we also do institutional support. So we partner with institutions where we kind of, provide our counseling services to their student bodies. So pretty much cover the entire spectrum. Yeah. So through today's discussion, the topics that we're going to cover are curriculum overview. So we're going to go through grade 9 and 10, the different curriculum options available to you, as well as grade 11 and 12. So we're going to go through that, after which we're going to talk about subject selection and give you a little bit of an insight as to which subjects are relevant for different majors that you might want to pursue. That sometimes there sometimes tends to be, families have a different perception of the kind of subjects that they would need, but what's actually required is slightly different. So we're going to touch upon a few popular majors that students apply to and kind of guide you guys on how to select the right subjects. So for curriculum selection, For curriculum selection, I'm going to go through 4 of the most popular majors, 4 of the most popular curricula that students kind of take on. There's ICSE and the CBSE, which are the Indian curricula, whereas there's IGCSE and the MYP, both of which are international curricula. The MYP, again, is the pre-curricula to the IB. It's part of the international IBDP program. When you take on kind of move forward with the MYP, you get to choose from 6 to 8 courses. There are a couple that are mandatory. So students definitely do have to do the core subjects, English, your second language, individuals and societies, sciences, math, as well as art or design, and PE. Each of these subjects are mandatory and students have to take it. They can take on additional courses, which is where it kind of ends up being, students that pursue 8 courses. And there is a personal project that students have to do as well. MYP is the curriculum that is offered for students in grade 9 and 10 and typically leads to the IB. However, a student that's pursued the MYP can kind of, move into other boards as well, not necessarily just the IB. Student could take on something like an A-levels or the AP program as well. IGCSE, again, another international Cambridge board, where students have the opportunity once again to choose from 7 to 10 courses. There are some that are mandatory, like the MYP, where there's your language A and B, both of which are a must, something that students have to take. Something from group 2, which is your humanities and your social sciences. So one subject from that is also a must. Again, science, either physics, chemistry, or biology is something that students have to take. We typically recommend students take at least 2, if not all 3 sciences. That's typically something that's benefited, students when they're applying abroad, regardless of the major that they want to study at college. Admissions officers love to see students having, core subjects and kind of really value the skill sets that students develop as they pursue these subjects through high school. Math, again, compulsory. And then there's something that you can choose from your professional and creative stream. And the 7th subject can be from any of the groups. Typically, students take one more subject from group 2 or 3. So that's how the division is. At least 8 courses is something that we recommend students must take. Students take up until 10 and some even 11. Students that are very competitive and looking at really esteemed institutions. Indian curricula, again, you have the ICSE and the CBSE, a lot more traditional in nature. There are some subjects that are mandatory. You have typically your languages, history, geography that are compulsory subjects. Then you have the opportunity to choose between science or a commerce stream, right? So between grade 9 and 10 as well, you can either choose science or you can take commerce. You also have the option in an ICSE curricula to drop something like a math. Something we really, really don't recommend. Math is a prerequisite, regardless of what you want to study. You want to study a psychology, you want to do something in the arts. Most universities, especially in the US, require you to do a core curricula. For 2 years, there are certain subjects every student has to take, regardless of what they want to study, couple electives. So it's definitely important that you stick with the math. at least for 3 to 4 years, at least 2 years, if not all 4 of high school. However, if a student does want to drop math, they do have the option to take EVS, which is Environmental Systems and Society. So that's something that you can choose. And Group 3 in the ICSE again has an array of options. I think these are just 2 to 3. There's computers, there's performing arts, there's PE. From my own experience being an ICSE student, what I really took was cookery. So, I mean, those options are also there. There's cookery, there's yoga. So there are a couple more fun options that students can pursue to kind of lighten the load of the other heavier subjects. And similarly with the CBSE as well, you get to choose between science or commerce. And again, you have the option between math and EVS there as well. Yeah, so this is a little bit of an overview of the options that you have in grade 9 and 10. After pursuing any of these 4 boards, you can move forward to again do an Indian or an international curricula. However, we do recommend that it is easier to move from an Indian curricula to an international curricula than vice versa. So if you are pursuing the MYP or the IGCSE, students typically do pursue the IB or the A levels as the next step. However, there's no pre-requirement for you having done an international board to pursue it in grade 11 and 12. You can very well be an ICSE student or a CBSE student and then move to the IB or the A level curricula. This is for grade 11 and 12, the curriculum options that are there. Like I said, MYP typically leads to IB. IB is one of the most holistic curricula outlined here that students take on in grade 11 and 12. Again, like the MYP, there are a lot of core subjects that you have to take. You have to take an English, you have to take a second language, a science, a social science, math. And again, you have the option in group 6 where you can choose something like a visual art, a theater, a drama, depending on what your school is offering. And if, of course, the creative streams don't really interest you, you have the option to take one more science or one more social science, depending on what you enjoy. In addition to the 6 subjects, though, in the IB, there are 3 additional components that are mandatory that students have to take on. There's your theory of knowledge, which is a subject that kind of allows you to focus a lot on reflection. Students debate a lot on topics, that are debated on. You do have to kind of submit a presentation as well as an essay on a topic. It's a research question that you typically come up with. And then you have your extended essay, which is a 4,000-word thesis that you take on in a subject that you enjoy on a very, very niche topic. It can involve primary or secondary research, or doesn't necessarily have to involve research at all. So that's your extended essay. And then you have creativity action service, your CAS, which is 150 hours that you have to complete over the span of 2 years. This is mandatory for every student taking on the IB. So this is something that you have to do in order to get the diploma certificate. A levels, again, you have the option to take on 4 subjects. There are 55 subjects that schools typically offer. Every school has around 10, 15, 20 that they offer, and you get to choose 4. You take 4 at the AS level and then have the opportunity to drop 1 and only pursue 3 subjects at the A levels. It is a very, very in-depth curricula. So while it may sound like the subjects are lesser, each of the subject is taught in a lot more depth. So of course, the level of rigor is very high, and it's a good option for students that are very focused, are very sure that these are the only subjects that I enjoy and this is all that I want to study. In that case, the A levels make sense. CBSE and ISC, like the ICSE and CBSE that I spoke about for grade 9 and 10, you can continue with your CBSE curricula as is. Have a couple compulsory subjects. And then you have the option again to choose between science, commerce, or humanities. There are certain compulsory aspects like your SUPW or your community service that you have to do. Again, that depends on the institution that you're studying at. Else it's pretty black and white. You choose between one of the 3 streams that they offer. So that's a little bit about the 4 different curricula in a nutshell. You'll get a little bit of a better understanding as we go through the subject selection and discuss what subjects you can take on depending on the curriculum that you choose. So I'm going to hand over to Sheetal to take you guys through the subject selection.
Thank you, Nanika, for that. Again, I'm sure in the audience, we've got a varied range of, student age groups, and whether you're in 6th standard, 8th standard, 9th or 10th or 11th, very important to understand, if we can just go on to the next slide, Nanika, thanks, that subject selection is more important than curricular selection. And I would like to stress on this because very often we have students, and I think someone in the chat is also asking that, would an ICSE matter versus an IGCSE, and, would HSC be considered stronger or weaker? So very important for families to understand it is not the curricula, but the subjects. We've had, and I'll give you examples later also, we've had students from HSC, which is a state board in Maharashtra, admitted to Harvard. We've had a student from HSC admitted to Cambridge. We had students from ISC admitted to Carnegie Mellon. And of course, IB is one of the most challenging curriculars, but it is not only this board selection. What is it that you're selecting within the curricula, the subjects that you've challenged yourself with, that is most crucial. And I'll kind of want to just talk a little bit in depth about that. So this is a slide, from a webinar, and BU is for Boston University. Boston University is one of the leading prestigious universities in the US. So the admission officers, when they are, discussing, and this was, when they were, of course, discussing with the counselors, they always say that irrespective of, whatever you may be intending to major in college, and over 60% of the time, data shows that students enter college with a certain intended major, and they major with something polar opposite. Because that's what colleges want to do. They want you to explore, a variety and the breadth of subjects that they are offering. They want you to understand what is it that you enjoy at college level, and then decide what you want to major in. So they know that you may be coming to college intending to study engineering, and you may pursue probably just anthropology. You may enter college thinking you will probably do literature or psychology, and you will end up doing a major, say, in mathematics. So irrespective of what you want to study, they definitely want to see something that you've done in your high school curricula. That is an indicator for them that will you be able to manage or handle the rigor offered by them. So as you can see out here, this is the high school rigor or curricula that colleges across the board prefer or recommend. They would recommend 4 years of English because you have to tackle that undergrad experience, which is going to be taught in English. So they want to know you are, obviously cut out for that. They want to see 3 to 4 years of math. Now, very often, we have students saying that I don't want to do anything in business, banking, finance, investment banking. I mean, nothing of that sort. Why do I need to study math? But math is one of the most important, crucial, critical problem-solving, critical thinking subject that is a foundation for anything that you want to do in college. It keeps all doors open. And just to let you know a couple of examples, that in the future, you may be thinking that I want to study economics and I know I want to go to LSC. So I rather take economics in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Why? I don't need math. But an important point to note out here is that LSC, which is the London School of Economics, needs you to take the highest level of math offered by your college. They say that you come to college, we'll teach you economics. But do you have the ingredient to study economics? And economics is actually applied mathematics. So also, if you're in a school which has probably, if you're in an IB school and it has HL and SL math, they'll need you to take the HL math at the highest level. So they need you to take the highest level offered by your school. So I don't want to go deeper into this, but just to let you know the importance of mathematics. And they would like to see 3 to 4 years of mathematics, irrespective if you're applying for literature, psychology, anthropology. The vertical one or the most competitive colleges, we need to see that you've challenged yourself with the highest rigor. Then they would like to see 3 to 4 years of lab sciences. Just for our families to know, lab sciences means biophysics, chem, computer science, environmental sciences. They are not lab sciences. The most rigorous sciences are your pure bio, pure physics, bio, and chem. So do not, think that, okay, I do not want to go down the medical route. I do not want to be a scientist. So mom, dad, let me just drop science in the 9th itself. And I think very so often, I think at least 3 out of 10 families every week that we speak to, they have the same query that, it's adding one more load of tuitions. Let me just drop it. My grades are going to go lower because of science. So let me just give you one example. If there is a student who's taken the sciences and got a 70% versus a student who's dropped the sciences and got an 85%, I think you'll be pretty much able to answer this after I've kind of really stressed on this importance of science, that the student with the sciences, though at a 70%, will be considered a more competitive student versus the one who got an 85%. And 3 to 4 years of history or, social science is what they'd like to see. and 2 to 4 years of foreign languages. So whether it's your Hindi, Marathi, your Spanish, German, everything that our schools anyways need us to take. So that's just a little bit about, irrespective of where you want to go, ensure that you are challenging yourself with the most rigorous curricula at school. Do not think that, there is no merit to that. Okay, let's move forward, Nanika. Thank you. Okay, so just a quick sort of brief on what are the subjects that are a prerequisite for certain fields. And what we are talking out here are the more vocational streams. Your engineering, your medicine, business, or when we say management, these are your vocational streams. Vocational streams are those streams that gets you ready for a particular field of education. And then you have the non-vocational streams, which is everything under liberal arts. Your pure bio, pure physics, pure chem, computer science also falls under liberal arts. So right now, I'm just going to give you a little brief on these more vocational streams, that if you are a student, probably also in the 10th, 9th, and are sure that you want to study engineering, you've tinkered around and you know that that's the way you want to go, math and physics are a given. You can't give up on math and physics at all till the very end. If you do not have math and physics, you wouldn't be even, you will be able to apply to, I'm not saying you cannot apply, but you're not considered that strong applicant. Then we come to medicine. Medicine, of course, your bio, physics, chem, and math. I'll just go back to engineering 1 second, that if you are a student who's passionate about bioengineering or chemical engineering, then it'll be math and bio, math and chem. But overall, yes, math and physics are the most important elements. So that was a little bit about medicine. And management is business management, economics, where math is the most important. And the reason I say that is also, we'll just go to the next slide, is that colleges have a curricula which is going to be very math heavy. The business slide. Yeah. So just going back to math, that these are the sort of majors that colleges offer in the US. And the only reason we are talking about the US, and I know we have families who probably don't know where they want to study, and US is not also on your radar, but US is like the mother of all applications and what colleges across the globe are requiring. So we are just giving you a snapshot of US requirements, that Boston University or USC or NYU, these are the various options that one can pursue under their School of Business. So whether it's accounting, business analytics, risk management, actuarial, statistics, they all are math heavy, quant heavy, math heavy majors. Even in the first 2 years, you will have to study in their general education a lot of calc. So if you are a student and you say, I want to study business, I've been going to my dad's office and I really know what business entails, so it's okay, I can just drop the math. Sorry, that won't work. Very, very important that, if you are aspiring to go to any of these competitive schools, the math needs to be there, because that's what your first 2 years also will demand of you. So that was just a little bit of a stress on business and math. Let's go forward. Okay. One other very important question that we are always asked is computer science. And yes, families across the globe are very, very aspirational that, yes, this is the, tech is driving the world and computer science is the most lucrative job. And my son is interested in math, interested in physics. So let's just go with comp sci. So very important to note out here, and this is something directly from the horse's mouth, that is the admission officer from University of Washington. She says, if you are considering applying for computer science, please remember that you come to college, we will teach you computer science. But we need to see that do you have the ingredients to study that, and which is math and physics. So again, very often families say that, okay, in the 11th and 12th, let me take computer science because that's what I want to study. Let me drop the physics. Again, I would go back to saying the math and physics is what's required. Yes, most colleges do not even consider computer science as a pure science. The University of California system is one of the first college systems which has now announced just recently that they are going to consider computer science as a pure science. But we are still waiting for other colleges to, follow suit. But generally, it's computer science is something that can be taken outside of your curricula if you wish to know more about it. But don't try to replace it, with a pure science as far as possible. Yeah, can we go forward? So I just want to give you a brief sort of, a snapshot of students with regards to the subjects that they had taken, what kind of made them really competitive and successful applicants, to top-notch universities. So there is a student out here, and I can't take names of students because we sign a privacy clause. So I'm just going to call it student A. Student A had started working with us pretty much early on in grade 8, she was always sure she wanted to study, government, politics, all of that. And she was absolutely adamant that I want to drop my sciences. And we were like, no ways, because she was a very academically strong and a potential student. And we're like, you are not dropping it, and you will only see the fruit to this 4 years later. And that's exactly, of course, with many other things that you do. But had she gone easy on her subject selection from 9th onwards, we wouldn't have seen the results that we did see. She was admitted to Brown, Georgetown. She was the awardee recipient of the Jefferson Scholarship, which is a very prestigious scholarship by UVA. Swarthmore, which is, the top liberal arts college as such in the US. UCL, again, one of the top-notch colleges in UK. But this student, if we see, yes, 9th and 10th, she had her core subjects. Even in IB, she had then gone forward and taken the IB. You can see that she has not dropped her pure sciences. She's taken her bio. History is a pure, social science. She's taken her math. She didn't take math at HL. She took it at SL, which is also fine. But she didn't say that, okay, let me just take something even lower. It is this subject selection along with everything else, of course, that she had done. She had a very strong ACT score. She was very, very passionate about, and she was driving herself deeper and deeper into research in various ways. She did show leadership through, of course, she was the president at her school. She had done a summer program also. But right now, I don't want to go into the non-extracurricular part of it, because today we are more talking about the subject selection. So just want to kind of get our attention back to the subject selection was key to her finally receiving these admits. And she is currently at Brown University and enjoying it out there. She is a rising junior. But yes, this is very important to know. Can we go on to the next slide? Okay. So this is student B, where again, I'm going to stress on the board, because that's something that, again, families are asking us. So you can see the student was from HSC, which is the state curricula in Maharashtra. And if, families understand the sort of the competitive style of the national curricula, it is CBSE, ISC, and then is a state board. So yes, he did go down the state board route, but he was, finally, you can see he's admitted to Harvard. So that itself is a testament of the board versus the curricula. But he was someone who was an awardee of the National Math Olympiad. He was teaching Math Olympiads to younger students. He had done a lot in math. He himself wanted to pursue a lot more in math parallel to his HSC. He was also pursuing, the JEE preparations, and he was finally successful at Harvard. So again, for families to know whether you are ICSE, IB, HSC, IGCSE, it's not the board. It's what you do within the board. And what you're doing outside of your school curricula, also within that field of interest, that's very, very important. So just wanted to kind of draw attention to board out here. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Okay. This is again another student who was from the ISC curricula. And we again want to kind of reiterate and highlight the fact that ISC, and she had taken the PCM stream, again, which is the science stream, and she is a successful applicant at Carnegie Mellon. She is a student who's just going to be starting college this fall, so she's a rising freshman. But again, to stress and reiterate on that fact that ISC and IB, CBSE are equally strong 11th and 12th curriculars. Yes, families feel, okay, if I'm aspiring to go to a Carnegie Mellon, I probably need to only take the IB, not important. She was in the ISC, she's taken the most important subjects, the PCM math. But along with that, yes, she did show a lot of the holistic evaluation of components, which is, showing your impact, showing your leadership. She did, she was in depth, passionate about research, about detecting anemia. She was very passionate about science, of course. So she was the founder, she was the chief editor, of an e-magazine, and she used to collaborate with around 80 writers all across the globe. And she used to, she was the final editor in chief for the e-magazine. She was also passionate about, the environment and the taboo around menstrual cycle. She's also something that's not mentioned out here, but she's also published 10 articles on environment and, 10 of them in newspapers. So the holistic evaluation that is very true to most colleges across the globe, she had all those components. But again, going back to the board, because for us, and we always tell all our families, your academics is the backbone to your application. Everything else supplements it, but cannot substitute it. So she was from the ISC and very, very successful at Carnegie Mellon. Can we go on to the next slide, please? again, going back to a CBSE curricula student. She is a student from, Bangalore, Indian curricula, CBSE. In CBSE, you can see that she had taken the PCM, though she was always sure that she wanted to study psychology. So you may feel that, okay, if I wanted to study psychology, I could have taken CBSE humanities. But no, she took the most rigorous combination, which is your PCM and econ. And yes, she did show a lot of initiative where she had started a whole initiative to help widowed families for COVID-19. She had a project with Karnataka government. She had indulged in research around the Spanish flu. She also showed a lot of leadership through, being the head of events at school. So just to kind of give families a perspective that she was admitted to all these universities. She was also the recipient of a very prestigious award, a financial award. And had she not challenged herself with all these, important core curricular subjects, we probably wouldn't have seen an Ashoka, UIUC, Penn State, UMass, Amherst, all of that. She had a ACT score of 32 herself. Sorry, not psychology, economics. That's what was her intended major. So yeah, that brings us to the whole goal of this session is that what are your steps going forward? Finalize your subjects. I think Nanika and I have, given a wake-up call to everybody thinking, okay, certain subjects or subject selection is not important. So yes, finalize your subjects. Focus on academics. Academics is the backbone to your application across the globe, whether it's US, UK, Canada, India. First is academics. That carries the maximum weightage in this evaluation. Everything else is supplemented, but not substituted. Work on building your profile, because whether, again, across the globe, you could be a student in 7th standard, not sure of where you want to go to. You may be wanting to even aspire to go to Canada in the future or even Netherlands, but your profile will be evaluated across the globe, including the Indian liberal arts colleges in India. Step number 4, prepare for the relevant tests and interviews. So kind of be aware, if you are a rising high school student, 9, 10, then what are the college exam preps that are going to be evaluated, whether it's the SAT or the ACT for the US, whether if you're in the 10th and 11th and you're preparing on you're ambitious for Oxford or Cambridge, those Oxbridge exams, XYZ. And last but not the least, strategize and then apply to colleges. There's a lot of strategies that involved. Ideate and identify which is the right fit university for you. Don't get, swayed around just by the big names and the brands. Colleges over the last 2 years, especially in the pandemic, have gone insanely competitive. And I can have a whole other session on that and show you data on what 5 years back was considered a target or a safety. Also, over the last 2 years, they have admit rates of close to 7%. So strategize that which is the university that I will be the right fit for, which is that university is offering me what I seek for myself, and then cast that net. Don't stretch yourself too thin. Hone your efforts in a very strategic manner. And yes, I think that brings us to the end of the session. I will leave it to, if we want to open up the floor to question and answers, Ela, and I think we've made it pretty much in time.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sheetal. Thank you, Nanika. This was a very comprehensive overview of why one should select the subjects they should select and why one should be motivated to select the board that they should select. I know I learned a lot, and looking at your student profiles, I'm not sure if I would qualify to enter college, but I know that it's become very, very competitive over the years. And I think that makes it increasingly more important for parents and students to be armed with the right information because there's obviously a lot to consume. So we do have quite a few questions, and I hope that we're able to get through all of them. But why don't I start with a few that I think are the most relevant? So Sheetal, one of the things that you mentioned is obviously there's a difference between subject selection and board selection. And oftentimes people don't recognize the importance of subject selection. So one of the questions that we have is, does IGCSE help if I want to go to Canada? And maybe you can highlight just what you were mentioning about subject versus board for a particular country overall.
Absolutely. Yes. So IGCSE is a great curricula, irrespective of you wanting to apply to Canada, UK, US, they are equally well perceived. The subjects within the IGCSE is going to be important.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we have another question here on the new education policy, and this may be a little bit slightly out of the context, but I think with relation to what we're talking about, the question is around what changes has that brought about? I guess in our particular context, how would that impact the boards if it has already, or if not going forward, would it be impacting board selection or the board construction?
The board construction is not very massively impacted by the new education policy. It's more about undergrad being taken into like in India right now, of course, it's undergrad is typically a 3-year undergrad program. So that may be extending to a 4-year. Colleges, I mean, the new education policy wants to give students that flexibility to explore and then decide their major, so on and so forth. So it does not affect the construction of the high school curricula that we are discussing.
Right, but it would give people more access perhaps to try different things.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on that topic, we have one particular question here. It's on wanting to be a product manager. And if I can just kind of reconstruct the question in my own words. So the question is, I want to be a project manager, but should I take engineering or should I take business administration, right? So that's one question, but I think the second part of the question that I would like to add on there is, we have a lot of opportunities, right? And as young children or as prospective students in undergrad, it's hard for us to know right away, right? When there's a lot of things presented for us. Similarly, it might be challenging to pick the right board. So looking at this question of wanting to be a product manager, but I think looking at the overall galaxy for students, how would you say, what are the right tools or things that we need to think about while making that decision, right? While looking at a particular stream, or maybe not even knowing?
Absolutely. So product management, basically, I think there is a sort of a amalgamation out here, and it's like product design and management. You have to know a little bit of product design, and you've got to know a little bit of course, your management skills. So product design is one of the most upcoming and, creative sought after field, because product design is applicable across the spectrum, right? Now, colleges offer product design in various ways. It's either offered in their College of Engineering at certain colleges. Colleges also offer product design in their School of Arts. And when I would suggest, if a student is looking at something like this, to keep a broad base, do not, of course, give up on your math, because in future you can go to a college where you can do business management and you can do a minor in product design if your particular college is offering it, or you can do a major in design and you can do a minor in business management or a minor in entrepreneurship. So the way I would construct it is that, start working on creating a portfolio, because if you want to demonstrate that artistic flair to your profile, because you will be applying to design schools as well, then you want to kind of show that, yes, I have a creative element. So work on creating and crafting a strong design portfolio, and work on, your math and business sort of certain layers of building that profile that will demonstrate that, yes, you've got both sides of the interests.
Great. And what if you don't know? So today, I think we learned that there are lots of options in terms of subjects, as we know. There are also a few options with respect to your boards. And you may, your child or you as a parent may not necessarily know what to choose. So what are the things that you suggest that a parent and student should start thinking about while making this decision if they have absolutely no clue? What are a few things that we should keep in mind?
I'll let Nanika take that because she gets that question every single day.
Yeah, I think we have that question a lot. Which boards should I select finally? How should we kind of make that call? So I think a couple factors. One of them would be to do with the child's learning style, which is something that parents typically get an understanding of over a period of time. Are they the kind of, students that are better at, memorization and, rote-based learning, or are they, do they prefer kind of, learning and applying their knowledge a little bit more? So that kind of helps them make that call between an Indian versus an international curricula. That's one of the factors. Another factor would also be the scope of subjects, right? Like I spoke about A levels, I mentioned that there are certain students that are very motivated and passionate towards only 3 to 4 subjects. And those are the ones that they want to study. They're not interested in, developing a holistic knowledge base and having a little bit of, the languages and the sciences and all of that. So I think that's another factor that helps you within the international curricula. Another factor I would say is knowing what you want to study, right? If you're taking the Indian curricula, especially for grade 11 and 12, you only have three options. You either do science, you do commerce, or you do arts. There are certain ISC schools that allow you to kind of, do commerce with just one science as part of your subject mix, or vice versa, which is the case for ISC, not HSC as much. But again, if you're sure of one of the different streams, then again, you have that option to kind of look at an Indian board as well. But if you're confused or you want to keep your options open, an international curricula, especially something which is a little broader like an IB, would make the most sense, because you have the opportunity to do a little bit of a science, social science, math, and 6 subjects across a diverse array of subjects. Whereas again, A levels is very targeted towards your interest area. So I think these are few of the factors that families think about and that we discuss with families when discussing deciding which curricula. And of course, another big factor is also choosing a school. Depending on the subjects, certain subjects that students really want to pursue, like a theater or a drama, but your school doesn't offer that. Then in a lot of those cases, we even recommending choosing, a school and a curriculum based on all these factors. Hope that
answers. So Nanika, I'm assuming that you deal with some confused parents from time to time who also have absolutely no clue, right? So one of the questions here is if you could just provide us more inputs on what you do, what TRP does in terms of, helping parents select, or helping parents and students jointly select or think about subject selection. And it would be great if you can kind of give that journey of the services that you offer for any relevant, parents here who are interested.
Yeah, of course. No, definitely. So I think there are a couple factors that we look at when considering subject selection. There are a couple topics that we discuss with students. So number one, we definitely look at their academic transcripts from the past. We do look at prior 2 to 3 years and see how they've performed. We have a lot of discussions with the child as well to understand which are the subjects that, do they need more support, or do they genuinely not understand a few concepts? Are they weak in the subject, or are they just not working hard enough? So we have a little bit of that discussion, that why are the grades low? Typically looking at 2 to 3 years of past performance gives us a sense of, which subjects they're genuinely good at and which might not be their strong suit. So that's one of the ways. Another thing that we do is we do a psychometric test with students that work with us. So we do a detailed psychometric test, which kind of, evaluates students' rhythmic reasoning and their, critical thinking, their verbal reasoning, all different kind of, facets. And we get a report, a 36-page report that really helps us kind of identify which are potential career pathways that a child might be interested in or might be geared toward. And again, then the subjects that are required for that pathway should definitely be there. So typically you have 3 to 4 pathways that show up for students, and keeping all of them open, unless the students like, I'm 100% sure I want to do a medicine. Most of the times we come across students that have at least 3 to 4 interests, or areas that they might want to explore. So keeping that in mind, we do subjects that they would need if they pursued one of these career paths or one of these majors at college. So that's another factor. So that's how we kind of go about it.
Right. And then ultimately this, facilitates the higher education journey with respect to your undergraduate degree or your master's. So pivoting back, maybe Sheetal, to you on just, the subject of undergraduate education, there are a few questions here around, distance learning with respect to international universities. Would you say that is a thing that is common? Is it happening often now, given the context of COVID? And are universities actually evaluating doing distance learning programs more rigorously? Excuse me.
I think distance learning, yes, was something that was very much an option and very well sort of accepted, done over the last 2 years. But I think now that things are back into, the normal swing, in person or the actual learning over distance learning would be the way to go.
Right, of course. And would you is there any sort of difference in terms of what makes a competitive student who's actually in person on a campus versus distance learning? I mean, would there be a difference in curricula? Would there be a difference in evaluation metrics? or would it be?
Evaluation is going to be the same.
Okay.
They are going to evaluate every single aspect of your, the holistic evaluation, which is your academics, your extracurriculars, your letters of recommendation, your counselor letter, all of that. Interviews, if at all, is a part of that process, for that university. All of that is going to be evaluated.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So to the person that was interested in distance learning, I think that's your answer. It exists, but we recommend that you go out and you be with students and learn from professors.
Because that is the whole undergrad experience, right? When you are with students.
Yeah.
Of course, there are circumstances that sometimes do not allow you to. Then, of course, that's a case-by-case basis.
Well, I'm hoping that we are far beyond a global pandemic. I personally studied at a campus, and I know that I learned so much of my education experience was just by being on campus with people interacting. So
yeah.
I definitely encourage that modality as well. So there's another group of students that we come across with both in the undergraduate and master's journey who are very intent on, being able to study abroad and then using that degree to, get a good job and then ultimately settle in the country of where they are. And I think that's not an uncommon journey for some. So are there particular degree types that you would say would make a candidate more competitive for that journey of studying, getting a job, and settling? Or would you say it really just depends on circumstance of that student at that particular time?
I think I would go with the latter, Ila, because I can say that, okay, tech, data science, pharma, these are the most upcoming sorts of fields, right? I was just reading a report where there was this chairperson of a whole chain of hospitals, and he mentioned that in the next 4 years, there's going to be a need of 40 to 50 million professionals in the healthcare sector. So, one really, and we know maybe there's a recession coming along. So we don't know if, you could be an econ major, finance major, and what happens, right? We know the computer science earlier was only relevant to like engineering fields. Now computer science is applicable across the field. So I don't say that a particular major, I say it's got to be very true to what that student enjoys studying and develops his skill and, sort of his profile in that field. I know what you're trying to ask, but at the same time, there is no right or wrong answer to this.
No, of course. No, I definitely agree. But given the fact that you are the experts, I was just wondering if you have seen anything from your cohort, of students that TRP has counseled and worked with since the inception of, the company.
No, I think our students, whether they've, graduated from even psychology, literature, all the even non-tech fields, econ, finance, they've all been successful. Yeah.
Right. So it's just, I think, a question of your intent, how hard you work and what your long-term goals are.
Absolutely.
Great. So Nanika, I have another question. Well, I guess both Nanika and Sheetal, you can answer this, but we talked obviously about subject and curriculum and the necessity to also think of, being clear on what subject you want to select, because that can make a big difference in being a competitive candidate for college. So someone said here that they used to think subject and curriculum are the same. If you were to just give us maybe, 1 or 2 lines or a snippet on how you would differentiate them, right? Subject and curriculum, that would be great. And both of you can maybe run through this exercise.
Nanika, you can take it over.
Okay, so I would say curriculum is more to do with a learning style of the entire kind of curriculum, the scope of subjects that you get to study. I think that's what curriculum would kind of mean to me, just to think of it at the top of my head. For example, like I said, just to give an example to kind of contextualize what I'm thinking, the IB learning style is very, practical based, application based, lots of additional subjects and additional components in addition to just the 6 subjects that you have to study, right? So very holistic based style, lots of focus on skill set development. So I would say that's a learning style, which would kind of help you choose a curricula. Whereas, if you look at like an ISC, right? Or say an ICSE, right? the curriculum is a lot more, the curriculum is a lot more, involves a lot more rote-based learning. It's a lot more structured. There isn't as much practical application. So I would say a curriculum is something that I would choose based on my preference for learning style, as well as my preference for the scope of subjects that I want to study. So that's what, curriculum would kind of help me with. And subjects, again, is the individual components based on the curricula, the larger structure within which you get to choose. So of course, there's certain curricula that force you, and it's compulsory for you to take certain subjects. And so the flexibility is more for certain curricula, like the A levels is absolutely flexible. Besides, like in English, which you need at the AS level, you can take any 3 subjects that you like, right? Whereas a lot of our other curricula are slightly more structured. So again, that's how, that's, I would say, curriculum and subject, the difference to me.
Thank you. That actually makes a lot of sense. So just on that topic, let's maybe talk really quickly about not just the flexibility to choose, but a change in a decision, right? Because as young people, that can happen, right? I know that I changed my mind a million times before I started college. Thankfully, I had the flexibility to do that, but I don't know if everyone necessarily does. So let's say that, you're in a particular board because that's what you and your family thought was the best learning style, as you said, for you. It was the best fit, as the red pen says, for you at that time. But you realize, sometime in that's actually, you want to pursue a degree in a college that actually requires another board. So what would you say are the factors then that would help make you a more competitive candidate to give you that, realistic ability to apply? Because as we saw from the presentation on the different students, it doesn't necessarily mean just because you choose a particular board doesn't mean you're necessarily locked in. But would you say subject is the thing that really helps differentiate? What are those things that you should be thinking about?
Yeah. So Ila, to answer your question, I would say couple factors. Number one, I think universities always, a lot of the core subjects that you take, regardless of the curriculum that you choose, if you have a lot of the core subjects, you get to study a lot of varying majors. Of course, bear in mind, if you want to do something in your STEM and keep that space open, we would encourage students to maybe have a math, a physics, and a chemistry. If they haven't taken it as part of their curricula, or if it doesn't allow it, then there are always additional ways to do it. You can always do an additional advanced placement exam, right, to kind of show that interest in a specific subject. Again, this is very case to case. A student pursuing or wanting to study medicine and practice in a specific country, right? Again, the requirements are very different for medicine. In order to be able to practice, you need to have for a lot of countries, to give their local exam, you need to have your physics, chemistry, biology, math to give that exam, whereas the IB doesn't allow you to take all the subjects. So how do you work around that? Then in that case, the IB is not the best fit board, right, for a student. Again, if you've still taken the IB and you decide that, somewhere down the line, 6 months down the line, you always have that option to take that advanced placement exam. Let's show some extracurricular involvement, right? Let's show some actual, maybe a research paper, or maybe a passion project, or, maybe you've done a lot of competitive examinations in that particular field. There's so many ways to do it, especially for your STEM, your business. There's so many competitions constantly being hosted by universities all over the world, hosted online as well as in person. So yeah, I think this is what I would consider. And this is, there's a way around it. But to answer your question, or to kind of give away a key takeaway to the audience, one thing I would try and do is keep more core subjects as part of my curriculum mix.
Keep more, I think that makes sense.
Your math, keep your sciences. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know, having gone to undergrad in the US, that despite taking a major that I think was completely opposite to any STEM courses, that was a requirement for us, and I could say you take away a considerable amount, right? Just as Sheetal had mentioned, you come to thank yourself later, or thank the people who encouraged you for doing it much, much later. But thank you for that. So we have, just respecting time, we have time for just one more question. There is a question here on how EduFund actually helps with children's education planning. So to answer this question, we are a full stack education, I would say, planning provider. The core of what we do is helping on the savings, but like I mentioned, because we are holistic, we have partners such as the Red Pen, because we believe that the education planning journey is, of course, long, and there are many components to it. Of course, selecting your boards is one of them. Subject selection ends up being one of them, but savings and being financially ready also is one of them. So we work with people like the Red Pen, and we also want to help parents think of what the Red Pen says is the best fit in terms of your future education planning, which of course includes academics, but also includes finances, because we want students and their parents to pick what is financially best fit for them, in addition to having competitive college applications or being ready holistically for that education journey. So I'd love to thank Nanika and Sheetal for their time today. I know I definitely learned a lot, and I think that there is definitely a lot to consider while making this journey happen for parents and students, but it's also one that should be informed. And I think the Red Pen has provided us with a lot of information today to consider. If you do want to get in touch with the Red Pen, whether it's Sheetal or Nanika or both of them, we do have ability to set up a session with them through the EduFund app. So we'll leave the link in the comment section if you would like to take a look at that. You can go right into the app, schedule a session with them, and we facilitate that interaction. And I believe, yeah, Nanika, if you want to provide that, if you want to show that slide as well, this is information on the Red Pen. So please do, if you're interested, set up a time to speak with them. We would love to, get you in touch. The Red Pen has always been, I think, one counselor in particular that we have really loved interacting with because of, the nature of their knowledge and how helpful they have been to students and parents along the journey. So thank you so much for attending. There will be a recording for those of you that were unable to watch the full thing. I know that there was a comment in the box about facing torrential downpour. I'm sorry about that, but there will be a recording of this webinar on YouTube that you can go back and refer to. And like I said, if you do need any help at all, if you would like to speak to the experts themselves, please do reach out and we would love to put you in touch with them. So thank you so much for your time, and I wish everyone a great rest of their weekend.
Thank you, Ila. It was lovely being here.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
thank you, Sheetal.
Have
Thank
a
you,
lovely
Nanika.
weekend,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye. See ya.
Weekend.